Mr. Chen Wei. He will present about the technology advance and update from MRI, especially for functional MRI.
Thank you, Dr. Kong, for the kind introduction. Good afternoon, everyone. So my name is Wei. I'm the Clinical Marketing Manager in ASEAN. So I'm very honored to be here to share with you some updates and the recent advancements in the MR neuroimaging. So first technique I would like to introduce or to mention is a simultaneous multi-slice. Probably you heard of this because for multi-slice, why we need this technology, because in neuro research, probably you already know the EPI sequence is workhorse. Conventionally, we have to excite the slice by slice, which sometimes give us a long TR. In the diffusion imaging or in the DTI, diffusion tractography, give us a long TR. So sometimes due to the clinical limitations, we cannot have a short scan time. So for some DTI studies or in the clinical research field, you can go up to 20, even 50 minutes. So we definitely need something to make the scan time more clinical friendly, acceptable. Secondly, for the functional MRI, like Dr. Kong mentioned, so at a certain period of time, if we do not have a low TR, so that means we do not have a good temporal resolution, means we do not have enough sampling or samples. So, as a functional MRI imaging, why do we have the information of activation map? Or we know which part of the brain actually giving us the activation signal is based on statistical difference between if you do a so-called the task-based functional MRI. So by having a simultaneous multi-slice actually is able to help us to solve all these technical challenges. So here, I just want to highlight some advantage of the simultaneous multi-slice. As you see on these slides, is that you can see there are 3 slides on the colorful DTI tractography. Simply, this tells us when we do the slice excitations, not more than one slice actually can be excited at the same time. We have been talking about parallel imaging for a long time, but parallel imaging, it just gives us a parallel receiving. We're using a phase array, multiple element coils to parallel receive the signal, but during the excitation, it's still in the sequential manner. Because this sequential manner, so we cannot speed up the scan. So what simultaneous multi-slice does is that when we give out the excitation pulse, it consists the excitation frequency of multiple slices, so that the signal we get from the patient body consists of signal of multi-slice. We just collect the signal. After that, using a computational algorithm to separate the signal, we know where each signal comes from, so that it helps us to speed up the scan. So with this technique that we are able to give you a much shorter scan time, we are doing a high number of directional DTI study, or if you want to do really event-related, requires very high temporal resolution functional MR studies. So definitely this is a technique that you need to. So if we excite the slice in 3 slices at one time instead of 1, so basically means your TR actually can become 1/3 of original time. So the next slide, actually, I want to show you some examples. How does it benefits in the functional MRI? So simultaneous multi-slice, when we first introduced, are mainly for the neuro research, because in the research community, they really need something to make the scan faster. But however, with Siemens also take this technique to another step forward. We also made it available to the turbo spin echo sequence. Theoretically, actually, all the sequences is able to do this parallel excitation or simultaneous excitation at the same time. But at this moment, we are quite proud that we are the only manufacturer in the market provide this simultaneous excitations to the turbo spin echo as well as result diffusion. So later on, I will talk about this blade diffusion as well. So just give you an example, how does this help us in the neuro research work? So probably you can see on the slides, the image on the left, scan time is close to 12 minutes. You can see all the 3 scans was scanned 64 directions with voxel size 1.7, 1.7, and 3 mm resolution. However, if we use the SMS factor 2, simply means we are exciting 2 slices at the same time. We're able to bring the scan time close to half. If we decide to excite 3 slides at the same time, we're able to bring the scan time to 1/4. So probably you heard of in the global, there's a human connectome project. In the human connectome project, in their functional or in the DTI protocol, they are even using a SMS factor to 8. So that means you can see how beneficial of SMS to the research community. All right, so this colorful image, probably you'll be wondering what is the difference for these slides from the image you see on the previous slides. Basically, this slide is one of the DSI, diffusion spectral imaging. So you'll probably be wondering what is the DSI or spectrum imaging and what the difference between the DTI. Basically, DTI is just one way of representing the diffusion, so-called, how do I put it, the eigenvector. So we can apply, as long as you have more than 6 diffusion directors, actually you can able to map out the water molecule eigenvector directions. But however, DTI is just one way to represent that information. So what happens is that whenever inside the brain white matter have the cross fiber issue, then DTI, the way of representation is, is not able. So basically, DTI is just one way to represent the data. But for crossing fiber, it's not able to represent the data properly. So DSI is one of more complex modeling to solve this cross fiber issue. However, to perform this scan, if you have done the DSI before, so roughly you know the scan time usually take about 45 minutes for one scan, one DTI, multi-directional diffusion weighted imaging. During this 45 minutes, it's very tough for the patients to keep still, so resulting in degraded information. So when you apply SMS, you're literally, if you apply SMS factor 3, you're literally able to bring the scan time from 45 minutes down to the 15 minutes, right? So that means greatly improve the patient comfort, improve the data quality. So as you see on these slides, the result is excellent, basically. All right, coming to the functional MRI, very exciting here is that, as I mentioned, in functional MRI, you usually sometimes you do this task-based, or sometimes you do the event-based. So probably for the event-based, you just instantaneously give some stimulus, then you detect the signal change in the brain. So it requires very high temporal resolution, it's able to capture that change. So it requires a very high temporal resolution. SMS is able to give us a high temporal resolution as well. So even for these slides, you can see with the task-based experiments, if we just do a standard TR 3 seconds examinations for 4.5 minutes, you only acquire like 90 measurements, basically 90 samples, 45 activation, and probably 45 resting state. So however, if we apply SMS factor 4, we're able to bring the TR to 1 second. So our number of samples measurements is able to increase to 270, basically 3 times. If we continue increase SMS factor to 8, we're able to increase the number of samples to 540. So basically with the SMS factor increase, the number of samples at the fixed period time, you're able to increase. So from here, you can clearly see the activation at the visual context is increasing with more sample. We do this statistical T-map analysis. Okay, so talking about the next exciting technology, actually, we introduced this technology recently. Before I go into the detail, probably just want to explain why do we need this blade diffusion. So probably as you use MRI, and probably you know diffusion is one of the most important sequence to characterize the lesion in the brain. But however, due to the special readout methods, basically we use the EPI readouts. So diffusion images always have certain artifacts in the images, but you're trained to ignore these artifacts, right? So as long as these artifacts does not affecting your diagnosis, not obscuring any lesion, you are basically tolerating all these artifacts, right? However, for certain situations, for example, if you have a patient coming for detection of active cholesteatoma, so you're basically looking at the IAC to detecting any of hyperintensity. So any of the signal piling up distortion around the IAC area, so will affecting your diagnosis. That you don't have the confidence to tell the clinician whether it's positive or not. So for that case, we need a better diffusion sequence, give us a artifact-free images. So with that, I would like to show you a 3 example comparison. As you can see, the images on the left using a standard single-shot conventional EPI sequence. You definitely can see there's a susceptibility artifact, a distortion, as well as the, maybe let me use the pointer here. You will see this is due to the phase encoding process in the EPI sequence. You have this susceptibility-induced distortion as well as a high signal piling up. So if you have a cholesteatoma here, you probably will not see it due to the high signal. However, we have invented also another segmented diffusion sequence we call resolve. With resolve, basically what we do is that instead of having a single shot, one straight way to read out the signal, what we do is that we basically segment the case space, making each readout shorter, so that there's a less phase encoding errors in the readouts. Yeah. However, still not ideal. You still can see there's some piling up artifact as well as distortion. So now with this blade diffusion, simply if you look at the same area here, there's no artifacts on the images. So basically, how we achieve this is that the two sequence on the left and the middle is using the EPI sequence, while the new blade diffusion we are using a turbo gradient spin echo sequence. Basically, it's a spin echo sequence. So at the same time, with the name blade, basically it tells us we also fill the case space in the radial oblique manner. So that means the phase direction is always changing, so there's no particular directions that will accumulate that phase error. So also with this blade case space filling, we are able to, it's not sensitive to any motion artifact as well. So here on this slide, I just want to give you a comparison for the entire whole brain studies. You can see the blade diffusion is in the center, and the conventional single shot EPI on the left, and the resolved diffusion is on the right. Yeah. So usually we know where to find these artifacts in the frontal sinus, in the sphenoid sinus, IEC. So these are the places where you find the distortion as well as a high signal piling up. But however, if you look at the center image, the blade diffusion, simply there's no artifact there. So we can call it a artifact-free diffusion. Also, we love this new technique give us artifact-free diffusion images, but we did not just stop there. Since we have our simultaneous multi-slice, we also applied these acceleration techniques to this wonderful diffusion technique. So as you can see, we're able to bring the scan time down 40%. If you compare the image quality-wise, almost similar, but the only difference probably is the contrast a little bit different due to the TR reduction. So for simultaneous multi-slice, the way the methods to accelerate actually is to reduce the TR. Yeah. Okay, so let's move to the next very interesting applications. That is also one of the latest AI implementations in the stroke imaging for AMA. So we all understand that there's a statistic shows that there's 27% increase in stroke prevalence in last decades, and 62% of the neuro-related deaths caused by stroke, as well as more than 3 million deaths per year. Definitely, MR can help. However, the speed sometimes for MR making it very hard to implement in the stroke emergency case. Also, when it comes to the imaging, stroke imaging guideline, the guideline has telling us that sometimes MR actually is equivalent to the CT. In certain cases, actually, MR actually is better than CT. So MR actually can be used as the first line of defense for the acute ischemic stroke. However, we just need to make MR scan as fast as possible so that it can be easily implemented in the workflow. So when the time is critical, so what happens is that we develop this new technique called Swift Brain. Simply, let me walk you through what the speed that you can expect from this new technology. So for the Satchel T1, only takes 21 seconds. And for the diffusion, applying the simultaneous multi-slice diffusion, we can bring down the scan time to 21 seconds. And for the T2 dark fluid, or usually people call a flare, the scan time is only 51 seconds. Also, the next very interesting sequence is two contrasts in one sequence. We can scan this sequence to get the two contrast T2 star as well as T2. So just 25 seconds. So in total, for all the essential sequences used for the stroke imaging is only under 2 minutes. Adding all the patient setup time, so one patient scan should be able to manage below 5 minutes. Yeah. So although looks it's very simple, we just bring the scan time down. But to bring this scan time down, actually there's many innovations has implemented at the back end. So first of all, there's a deep learning reconstruction algorithm has made this image quality comparable to the standard sequence. So here in the T2 dark fluid, as well as the T2 sequence with T2 and T2 star, two contrasts in one sequence. Basically, the deep learning reconstructions really give us a high level of denoising to achieve this speed. Secondly, also, if you look at the T2 dark fluid or the flare sequence, usually this sequence will be take a long scan time due to we need to wait for the water to relax, so that we use a long TI to have a proper contrast or fluid suppression. However, using the standard sequence, the scan time is simply just too long. So what we did is that we simply use a EPI sequence. So with the EPI sequence, we're able to make the scan faster. So for that, for the EPI sequence, there's a distortion always associated, as just now we explained the diffusion. So we also developed this new static field corrections to make sure the distortion is not severe. So again, the multi-shot EPI approach was involved in the T2 and T2 star. So combining all this effort together, we're able to achieve this ultra-fast stroke imaging protocol. Okay, speaking of AI, so probably I think you should be familiar with this triangle. So in the past 20-30 decades, for MR scans, we are always guided by this triangle. So one angle is image resolution, and the other angle is acquisition, and the other one is SNR. So basically, what does this triangle mean is that whenever you increase the resolution, so your SNR will drop. To compensate for the SNR, what you need to do, you need to increase the scan time. So they are always interrelated. However, a few years ago, when we introduced the compressed sensing, we're able to somehow distort this triangle, but we are still pretty much guided by this triangle. Until the AI introduction, we're able to completely break free from this relationship. So, since today many are focusing on the neuro, probably more into the neuro research, diffusion sequence again, or DTI or sequence. Whenever I will always like to increase our so-called the B value to give us higher accuracy of the underlying water molecule movements. So, but however, whenever we want to push up the B value, the diffusion gradient weighting strength, we always lose signal for two reasons. One reason is that there's a strong diffusion gradients, basically is defacing gradients, so we lose signal. Secondly is that due to the playout of the diffusion gradients, the stronger it goes, actually the diffusion gradients will run longer. So that translate into the higher TE. So with that, if you really want to perform a super high B-value experiment like a kurtosis, you usually will suffer from the low SNR. So however, to compensate the low SNR, what you usually do is to increase the scan time. But increasing the scan time will make the scan clinically unfriendly. So is there a way that we're able to increase SNR while not increase the scan time? Actually, the answer now is here. We can just use AI to help us to do denoising. Comparison on the slides, you can see image on the left with p-value 1600. Scan time is close to 10 minutes. Image looks a bit noisy, but if we apply deep learning reconstruction or deep resolve algorithm, so you can see the SNR is improved quite a bit. So this is something to think about. AI actually is able to help us to advance in the neuro research field. Okay, so probably this is my last slide. Just want to give you some of thoughts. So with this scan, we scan in 256 directions with p-value 300, and the in-plane resolution is 1 millimeter with slight thickness 2 millimeter. So the total scan time for this is only take about 18 minutes, 56 seconds. So that is what the AI now is able to give us is a fantastic DTI imaging of the brain. Yeah. So with that, that's my last slides. Yeah. So I'm happy to answer any question if you have any.